Yo, what's going on, guys? Winter Kills here. Welcome to a brand new episode of Saturday Night Locals, aka Tuesday night. Picking up here in round 3. If you haven't seen the previous round, leave it up in the top right for you guys to check out. We're currently 2-0, going to the third and final round of Locals. Small turnout, so we were able to play out 3 rounds. And we're playing against Tearlament Strongest. The former cash god himself, Devin Rodriguez, now on the Tearlament strategy. And he did win die roll here and didn't open up super well. Having to lead with Mothman. You know, I always get my hopes up anytime I see somebody just set something first. I'm like, they're just going to pass, right? But no. Of course, they're setting up for danger plays. The Mothman does get sniped. I discard the extra Wanted I have in my hand. Pretty easy discard there. He goes for Nessie. And I do not snipe the Nessie, unfortunately. I do hit a Havness. He gets the draw 1. And now is going to declare Havness effect. And, you know, I was joking around saying, like, oh, you just make Kikalos here, right? But I was kind of honestly thinking, like, what does he actually make here that actually does anything super crazy for him? You know, assuming that he bricked, right? Like, what does he actually make here? Like, he really only has 2 options, right? It's either go for a Mud Dragon with the Mothman and Havness, or he could have gone for a Guru, I guess, with the Nessie and the Havness. Decides to go for the Mud Dragon. I mean, blanket targeting protection is pretty nice. Luckily, a lot of the removal in my deck doesn't target. Droplet, you know, Gearfried, or not Gearfried, Charles and Access Code. But he normal summons Kelbeck and overlays for Time Thief Redoer, which I wasn't expecting. Luckily, I can draw phase the other Wanted I have to go ahead and grab Diabellstar. That way, I can at least make it so he can't grab that out of the deck. Now, of course, if he gets the Snake Eye off of the Time Thief Redoer, I'd be a little upset because the odds of that happening are pretty low, but he takes a Nibiru, so I was like, alright, perfect. Only just monsters underneath there. And I was also under the impression, I don't know why, I just don't know cards, I guess. I thought Kelbeck would get his effect if he used, detached it for Redoer's effect, because obviously Redoer does not detach for cost, it detaches for effect, that's why Tier plays it. And I figured at some point he'd be using the Redoer to tag out, detaching the Kelbeck and milling 5. But it has to be sent from deck or hand. So that was my mistake. So I'm under the impression this entire turn that he's going to do that at some point, and it never ends up happening. And now it is made clear to me as to why. So I did see him add the Soliac earlier in the turn. And I figured it's set right now. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, all right, the card is unknown, but like, because I think Soliac can send from hand or field, whereas Crime just has to send from hand. So I take a look with the Dolphin, and he still has, I believe that's Meta Noise in hand. I mean, it kind of looked like Meta Noise from here. It might have been. It's a Tearlament trap, regardless. So I was like, okay, you know, that's fine. We can scan for hand traps here. There are none, so we are pretty much safe to proceed for the most part, knowing what we know. And I just go ahead and link into the Assault here. And I don't actually take any damage off the Dolphin because my opponent didn't have a monster in hand to begin with. I think Dolphin's effect only applies if there's a monster for you to select in the hand. So we summon Assault, and we attempt the effect on summon. And my opponent uses Droplet, sending off Nessie to just end up negating the Assault. So I was like, alright, that's fair enough. So the fact that he doesn't let that, and like people still do this, it is kind of surprising that people still do this to Assault. For some reason they think that me getting the warrior that I literally cannot use for the remainder of the turn is going to do something, when they really should just wait for me to use the other effect and then fire off the Droplet there, because now I still have access to use Assault this turn. So I fire off the field spell. Obviously I have no worries about Droll here, which is great. Pay 12, grab a Durendal, And I'm just thinking about what's the most efficient and clean way to get into a second Isolde without, like, wasting too many resources. So I go ahead and attempt to use Oliver in Grave. He chains Called by the Grave, which I was like, okay, fair enough. I guess that forces that out potentially. So then I fire off Reinforcement of the Army. And I think I just use this to grab the Fire Flint Lady, right? The cleanest, easiest way to get to a free Warrior Extender. You know, Renault is not live right now. Oliver's certainly not live. I'm going to play one. So Fire Flint is the card to do the job here. And I don't have to use the Snake Eyes, so we just summon out Fire Flint and link off the Isolde and the Fire Flint into a second copy of Isolde, and we use the second effect here, and I'm like, yeah, this is, you know, in my head, I'm like, yeah, you should have waited to use the droplet there, because now we're gaming, as they say, right? So we're going to dump 4 Joyous, All Mace, Sword, and DDR to summon out the Ogier, and then we can activate Ogier effect. And I'm debating on whether or not I dump the Gearfried or if I send something like Turpin here. And I still have Durendal in hand, so I have access to Turpin with that. Obviously, Durendal can't search Gearfried, so I think it probably would have made more sense to send the Gearfried there and not the Turpin. But I mean, I guess that's what we're doing. Yeah, I still could have dumped Gearfried there, and then Durendal just added the Turpin. And then summon Turpin from hand, so it doesn't get banished. But I guess if I'm going for Dempsey anyways, it's not getting banished. But now I'm just missing out on a Gearfried that could be in my grave. I mean, I technically still have a way to get to the Gearfried if I resolve the Angelica. So I guess it's not the end of the world. And this is going to search me out Renault, which is huge. And Renault is going to go ahead and grab me back the DDR, which is even more huge, right? Because now we can Divine Sword, banish the Ogier, and set up the DDR. So we banish Fireflint and the Ogier, and now we can go DDR effect, discarding Divine Sword, bringing out Ogier, and then synchroning for Angelica. And OTKing here should be extremely easy. I'm just taking my sweet time, because again, I am like waiting for the worst to happen, of him to use the Redoer to, you know, like, to use the Cowback. So I'm like, you know, he hasn't done it yet, so I'll just go for Appaloosa, right? That should secure it. So like, yeah, I feel so stupid for not realizing that. If I was unsure, I should have just read Cowback, but I guess not into reading cards at this point. So we're just gonna synchro for Angelica here, and now I feel like completely free to play because we've got the Appaloosa on field. Search the second. Second field spell, but now I don't actually have a way to resolve the second field spell because all my targets are out of deck. So if I want to, I have to resolve a Magus. So I have to either send Magus or Gearfried there, and my opponent sees the Gearfried get sent. I think he just realizes, yeah, that's going to be game. I'm taking a long time to do it, but yeah, we get it done regardless. So we are on to game 2 now, where I am, of course, going to be going second. Bestials are in the deck. Droll and Lockbirds are in the deck. And I think Called By is also in the deck going second, because this is one of those rare matchups where Called By and going second is worthwhile. Same thing against like Dragon Link, hitting Seals is definitely worthwhile. And so he starts Planet, adds Sharon, and we fire off the Droll, and I'm like, all right, we'll see how good this is actually going to be. I know he's playing Danger, so we at least trade with all of those. And anything he mills, Solic, Scream, right, we trade with all of those cards as well. And he ends up discarding Kelbeck, and then milling a Guido off of the Sharon. So now we're just casually milling 10 cards here. And, yeah, mills the Beast, mills King of the Swamp. So I guess it trades with that if he's playing Polymerization. So can't draw off the Beast, can't search off the Scream, can't search off the Solic. I mean, we're just trading with so many free cards here off that Droll and Lockbird. Doesn't seem that great, but I mean, the grand scheme of thing, it is pretty nice. And we milled Ricky Ardetto, which to me right now seems bad, but, well, me in the game seems bad, but as I'm commentating, it doesn't seem bad at all, because Ricky Ardetto's Graveyard effect is now live, right? It's live, which is pretty good. Assuming that we can actually play because we are now getting window locked because he milled 2 tier names. And of course, the corresponding cards to go with them to be able to make the Grapha, Fusion, and Winda. So not only does he have a negate for a normal or a monster or a normal spell or trap, but also makes it I can only special him 1 more time this turn. And he's going to have a rank 4 on top of this as his last special summon for the turn. He's going to be able to go for Time Thief Redoer. And I guess I sided evenly too, and I pick up a Druis Worm for turn. I go draw phase Wanted to secure the Diabell Star since I haven't milled that yet. And I'm just really curious to think like if there's any way I had to beat this. Like getting Diabell Star on field seemed good, but I think I might have forgot about how Planet is giving all fusions 500 and he takes a spell off the top of the Redoer, which is really good for him. Takes an extra copy of Wanted. Like the hand is really strong right now if the Winda is not there. I think like what I could have done is tried to use Druis Worm, summon it, and then just like crash into the Winda or anything else, and then try to use Druis Worm to send it. But I mean, then he just negates with the Grapha, and I think I still lose regardless. So like I don't think that there's anything that I can do there. Yeah, now he's resolving the Time Thief in response to the Diabell Star, and he's going to go ahead and fusion summon here for the Kaleido Heart, and of course he also gets to draw 1 since he had the spell off of that, so he can shuffle back the Diabell Star and pop the set card. And my only hope right now to win is to like draw a droplet off of the Snake Eye. I think that's literally my only hope. So I use Wanted, put it back, and draw 1, and we draw into a Turpin, and yeah, we can't really do anything there. Super unfortunate. Like I said, maybe starting with the Druis Worm, or if we just like drawn the Druis Worm, you know, in our opening 5, we probably would have been good, but yeah, there's just nothing we can do there with that. The window is really just the nail in the coffin. That's why I hate that card and wish it would never exist, but here we are. Anyways, into game 3 where we draw insane. Like, we draw insane here in game 3. Like, I literally could not have asked for a better opener here, except for maybe the hard draw connector. But getting Wanted in the draw phase, always remembering that, not playing in a droll. And we get to the Diabell Star, and yeah, the only thing I don't like about the Diabell Star is like you have to discard, like, and it just takes cards out of your hands because you're already discarding for Dolphin, which feels bad sometimes. So you have to think really carefully about your discards because you don't want to like discard something good confidently thinking you'll be able to play afterwards and then like be kicking yourself afterwards for discarding the wrong thing. So I try to make sure it's like something if I do discard I can like get it back potentially later, or has synergy in the graveyard obviously. And now I Rhoda here because I don't really have a set way to play around Droll, and I didn't want to grab the connector here only because like if I get Drolled on connector, like it feels like it defeats the purpose, and I already have Ogier in hand. And I think it would just be better to go for Ogier. I don't know if, like, let me know. Like, should I have gone for connector here? I think I just tunnel vision to the Ogier Renault play, which is, like, still really good under Droll and Lockbird, I think. So, you know, I don't really regret adding the Ogier there, even though going for the connector would have been decent, I guess. But, like, this line is going to actually play through the Droll and Lockbird, like, near perfectly. So we get the Gearfried back to our hand, and I'm still, again, trying to respect Nibiru. Anytime I go for this line, I always try to set up the early Gearfried, because the last thing I want to do is to play into a Nibiru and lose super, super hard to it. So I'm just carefully, you know, going over all my options, you know, making sure I'm not forgetting anything. Like, do I have a certain card in my hand that's going to prevent me from doing this, that, or the other thing? And I go for a Sold, which I guess makes sense, actually. Because we can't add Field Spell anyways. But could still do Angelica, and then Ogier Effect, Chain, dump Magus, or dump Turpin. And I don't know. That's actually kind of tricky. That is tricky. So I thought maybe going for that, and I remember we're under draw, but like going for Angelica there doesn't seem as good. It might be safer, but I think it definitely leads us to a far worse board. And I go ahead and use the Sold here and use the effect. Now, I guess I was fine with doing this play because, like, no matter what happens, like, I have Link Spider, so, like, if he does nib me, I can still do Sinful Spoil stuff and try to keep playing that way. And at least I have Turpin on field as the 5th summon at this point. So, like, I get that extra extender engrave anyways if we do get nibbed. And we're going to force any Nibiru's here in a second. Because, like, we can either summon the Gearfried or we can just outright make Appaloosa. So I guess it's not that bad at the end of the day. And I also know that if I want to do Appaloosa, right, I have to sequence things carefully, because if we use Ricky Ardetta, we get Warrior locked. Obviously, Appaloosa's not a Warrior. So I'm just trying to think, like, if I do go for Appaloosa right now, what do I have to do afterwards? Because I need something to send on field to be able to use Snake Eye. And I got to have a Warrior on field some way, because otherwise I don't have way to equip the Divine Sword. So a Link for the Appaloosa, 3 negates on it at 2400, not bad. And the Gearfried is going to basically fill the gap here, allow me to get a Warrior on field and allow me to equip something to it. And also, simultaneously, the Divine Sword is giving me a card to send for the Snake Eye. So Turpin special summons itself because we have the, Gearfried equipped with Divine Sword. Then we go Snake Eye. Sending the Divine Sword feels so good. It's such a free thing to be able to send. And then we use Rich Ardetto, bring back Ogier, and now we have the opportunity here to synchro into either Roland or Angelica, but I think with the current hand that I have, it would just make much more sense to go for Roland outright, because I don't think I have a way to trigger the Angelica to dump something like Magus to tag out into Roland anyways, if I don't just go straight for Roland. Because I think I didn't have enough Warriors in grave. Let's see here. I'll check my graveyard here actually, like, fully. Because the only way I was triggering is if I was adding back Divine Sword, dumping Magus, which, yeah, I don't think I did. Yeah, no, I didn't. Because that Turpin was getting banished too, we have to remember that. And I don't know if it's greedily, but I greedily use the Divine Sword there, banishing a couple good names from the graveyard to add it back to equip it to the Gearfried again. Luckily leaving the Roland engraved, which we actually can use its effect if we weren't under Droll, I guess. Angelica's Angelic Ring gets dumped because of the Assault, so that's already set up. We equip it with the Oliver, so now it can't be targeted. So any on Appo for 3. Blue Chew Chuck with the Angelica's Angelic Ring, with Oliver equipped, with Gearfried, with Ash in hand. I'm feeling pretty confident. Now, I'm pretty sure here I misuse the Angelica's Angelic Ring. Yeah, it doesn't send itself. When it's not like, in my head I was like, oh, it's like Mizuchi, right? Like, because the way it can negate Super Poly, Dark Ruler, etc. Or Super Poly, right? Or things you can't respond to. So I messed that up. Like, Angelica's Angelic Ring should still be on the field. Yeah, so that was a big misplay. It should not have sent that. It's not how that card works. Yeah. And it also has the targeting effect too. It says, you can gain 5 relay points and destroy this card. If you do, your opponent cannot target the monster that was... Oh, well, that's the other effect, which we did not use. So that actually didn't apply. But we should still have that on field anyways. Yeah, because that's just... I completely misunderstood how the card works. It's not like Mizuchi. Mizuchi actually sends itself off the field when it negates the spell after it resolves. And
To search a monster? Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, so he's resolving the Mothman, and I think he just milled a couple more cards there off of the tier cache.
3 or 4?
I believe milled and didn't hit anything super crazy. Yeah, that ring should still be equipped. And I think I've only used...
I'll negate with Apo.
Yeah, I used the Apo negate here on the tier cache because why not, right? And I'm also expecting him to use like the
Apo.
battle phase here to get over the Apo, but he just doesn't. He uses Shire and just lets me negate that as well. I guess maybe he was worried about me like just going Roland equipped to Charles, pop Mothman, and then he doesn't have a way to beat over it, and we still have one extra monster negate left, which I think Appaloosa does still have.
He also can't be targeted right now.
So...
Because of all of her...
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I didn't just like, after the first negate attack, because it was only at 2,400 and Mothman has 1,800, I believe. So yeah, definitely could have been be able to beat over the 1,600 attack Appaloosa there. And then just normal summon Sharon, and I'm expecting him to make just like you know, rank 4 here. He uses Scream effect. I ash that because if he mills multiple names off this, then I'm kind of screwed. So at this point I figure, you know what, let him just like make Time Thief Redoer, and makes it very easy to isolate what I need to stop, right? He just uses the Sharon effect in Grave when he detaches and just easily negate that. And I think he used Kelbeck in hand there. I'm like looking down here, so I apologize, you can't see. He used Kelbeck there on the resolution of the Ash, and of course we negate that too. So it just lets me freely use all 3 Appaloosa negates without going into the battle phase, which I thought very interesting. Maybe he had a Zeus play he wanted to go for, so maybe that's why he saved the battle phase here. That's like my only reason as to why. So he attempts to leave main for battle phase. I go Roland equip. I go Roland on the Charles effect to non-target destroy, and he chains the Redoer. I chain Gearfried to negate and destroy, and I think the Charles should still have resolved though, popping something. I'm not sure how that would work because Charles isn't target. So I don't know if I would have just had to pop something else, or the card I chose to pop just was already off the field anyways. Yeah, I don't think that's how it works. I think it might just be mixing it up in my head, but either way, he sets one, passes, I draw for turn. I use the effect of wanted to put back the Snake Eye. He chains Tier Cache, and I have the opportunity to negate here with Gearfried, but if I negate and destroy the Tier Cache, he still mills, right? But he can also get the effect of Scream, which will allow him to mill a lot more. So I think in hindsight I should negate this Tier Cache in hand, because that way he'll only mill, what is it, 3? 3 from Grave, or it might be, it's 2 on field and 3 from Grave. But it's the other way around.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I actually okay it. So interesting. Tier Cache banishes Tier Cache, and then I draw Dolphin. And then, yeah, he gets to mill a lot more here because of the Scream now.
Yeah.
And I just let it go. Mills 1, mills 2, mills 3, whiffs, and then 3 more, and hits Havness and Rhino Heart. So this is why I should have negated the Tier Cache in hand, because, like, it's just a numbers game. Why would I let him mill 6 when I could have just let him mill 2? Right? And obviously,
Gear Freed effect.
by seeing what we see here, we know that it whiffs completely, or would have. And then he goes to use one of the tier names engrave. I think it was just Havness. We negate with Gear Freed. He tries to respond with Solic. I negate and destroy with the Charles Link. And yeah, that whole chain resolves. He gets to resolve the Solic now to add a tier monster. And I believe he just adds the third and final tier cache in the deck. And he's already used both. Well, used the effect to summon tier cache this turn anyway. So it's not really an interruption for us anymore at this point. All of our monsters are down 500, which is something I have to factor in, obviously. Considering that I definitely need to go for game this turn. Or at least put up a board that he's not going to be able to break with the cards that he has left. And I make a pretty rookie mistake here. And blame it on this card being new. So he had a tier cache. And I could have used Aqua Dolphin here to rip the tier cache out of his hand. And burn him for 5. But that would have triggered the tier cache. So is that something I really should have done? That's the question. Let's see here. Tearlament's Cache Hero. You can only use each effect of Tearlament's Cache once per turn. So yeah, if it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, send the top 2 cards. So like, that's such a risky decision to make, right? Do I let him mill 2 more with no more interruptions now, right? With, you know, decent cards in the grave, like he's got Rhino or Rhino Heart in grave, so I could make like a Kaleido Heart. Start breaking apart my field, like if he does mill another name. So, because I believe Shiren and Havness are in grave, so he'd have to mill the one of Merly, but you know, just you can't trust tier players, right? So now I'm starting to do math. I'm like, okay, if I make SP Little Knight, you know, I can banish the Tearlament Kashtira and, you know, open up the field and go for game, right? Wrong. You can't attack directly the turn. You use SP Little Knight's effect. So there's that. Completely messed that up. So here I am under the idea that I can just go for game here. And I use the Divine Sword. I'm like, oh, great, I'm going to have to get rid of Oliver. Like, that could have been decent targeting protection. But, you know, whatever, I guess. So I equip the Divine Sword to Gear Freed. It's at 2,800. And the Link Charles is gaining 5 from its own effect, so it lost the 5. And then I equip Roland to Gear Freed again. So it gains 5, because that's what Roland does, just gives it 500. So now he's gaining 800, so he's at 33. And I go to Battle Phase Attack, and he picks up that speed to read. I'm like, oh my god, wait, I can't attack directly. This came up at the 3v3 yesterday, or a couple days ago. So I was like, yeah, can't attack directly. That is a thing. And, yeah, I literally just have to proceed to end phase. I was checking Charles, like, does this effect happen every end phase? If it copies its effects, and it does. So I just proceed to re-equip the Angelic Ring, and then equip Magus from deck, and then proc Charles' effect, which I don't think I used Charles' effect to pop this turn.
Yeah, I don't think it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's no way I used it, because there's really nothing to pop. Or was it on the... Well, the redo was on his turn. But on my turn just now, I don't think I used it. That might have been last game, though. Yeah, no, this is the game when I popped the redo. That was like another different game. And I draw a Druis Worm off that, which is just insane. So, yeah, he goes and summons Tier Cache. And I go... Or tries to summon Tier Cache. I go negate and destroy... Let him mill 2 instead of milling 6. Mills Droll, mills Rhino Heart, and doesn't use the Rhino Heart effect, so he has no tier names in hand. And then he goes,
yeah, that's fine.
Medora. I was like, what the hell is his name? Medora pitch Kelly, mill 5, and hits the Agito as the 5th card. I was like, okay, things are getting a little dicey. Where's the Merly? There's the Merly. And he goes Merly effect. Because it's the only tier name he has left in the deck. I go Chain, drew a Swarm, and yeah, that's pretty much a wrap, right? I mean, obviously you could Chain his Keldo that he just milled to dodge it and put it back in the deck, but like Merly's still not resolving, and I have a Drew a Swarm in my hand still for next turn, and we have just a lot of bodies, right? So yeah, that's gonna do it. We end up going 3-0. We get the mat. Thanks to my friend Joe for letting me have it, because 2 undefeateds left. We had to split, and he let me have it. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed, though. And last but not least, a big shout out goes to our current Divine level channel members, who are Pony Stark, HGH, Cyber, Misfit, Cadillacs, and Green. Thank you guys so much as always for showing me kind and very, very generous support of the channel.